It's me, the tree guy!
Hello and welcome to the second episode in my series about getting into competitive Riftbound play. Today I'm going to do some budget upgrades to the Lee Sin starter deck and test them out. Before I can decide which cards I want to add, I need to decide on a direction to build the deck. There's two champion units, Lee Sin Centered and Lee Sin Ascetic, which lead to pretty different build paths. Lee Sin Centered, the one that comes in the starter deck, is a 6 might champion for 6 energy with Accelerate for 1 and an orange. He also gives other buffed units at the same location plus 2 might, so the way to build into this ability would be to try and have as many buffed units as possible. This can be achieved with cards like Pit Rookie, but the best way is to just use Lee Sin's legend ability whenever possible. Lee Sin Ascetic is a 5 might champion with shield 1 for 5 energy and a green. He can exhaust to buff himself, but the important part is that he can hold any number of buffs. This champion probably wants more effects that can place buffs and maybe some more counterspells to protect Lee Sin. There's another option where you just ramp into some of the best cards in orange and green. You could run either Lee Sin as your champion because your champion's not that important to your overall game plan. This isn't my favorite version of Lee Sin because it doesn't really take advantage of Lee Sin's legend ability. It relies more on the raw power of green and orange staples. This version of the deck is also the most expensive because it's basically a Master Yi deck in disguise. For this video, I'm going to build around Lee Sin Centered, since that's the direction the starter deck was going towards, which means we can also keep a lot of the cards from the starter deck. To quickly recap the last video, I'm removing both the gears Mistfall and Mask of Foresight, and I'm also cutting Wielder of Water, Paka Cub, Bilgewater Bully, Stormclaw Ursine, and Mountain Drake, because there's just better options. Finally, the spells I'm cutting are Stand United and Challenge. Stand United is a bit too expensive for the buff it gives, so I don't think I'll ever really want it, and Challenge might come back into the deck as it's a solid option for removal in these colors. There's quite a few new cards that I picked up. For the units, I picked up another copy of Lee Sin Centered and 2 more copies of Udyr Wildman. I got 2 Clockwerk Keepers so that I can go up to 8 2-drops, and I also got some Sunlit Guardians to replace the Wielders of Water. Where I really made a lot of changes was spells. I got some Defys to be able to interact with my opponent's spells. I got 1 Wind Wall for the same reason, but I didn't want to run more than 1 because 2 power is pretty steep for a deck that isn't trying to ramp. Still, I wanted 1 copy just in case I ran into some bigger spells. For combat tricks, I got a few copies of En Garde, which for 1 energy gives a unit plus 1 might, or plus 2 might if it's the only unit at that location. This can pretty easily give plus 2 might for 1 energy, so the rate is pretty efficient. There's also Block, which for 2 energy gives a unit shield 3 and tank. This is more situational and has a worse rate than En Garde, but it can also be hidden. I also picked up 1 Primal Strength and 1 Dragon's Rage to test out. Primal Strength is a 4 energy 1 power action that gives a unit plus 7 might. This is just a big buff, so I don't really know how good it actually is, but I've seen some lists running it. Dragon's Rage is Lee Sin's signature spell, and it moves an enemy unit to another location. Then, that unit and another enemy unit at that location deal damage equal to their might to each other. So this card is best if there's 2 units with the same might at different locations. I'm testing it out and I really hope it's good because it's one of the reasons to play Lee Sin over Master Yi. There's a few cards I didn't include either for availability or budget reasons. 2 cards that are probably pretty good are Qiyana Victorious and Set Brawler. Qiyana is just good because she provides a lot of value for a 4-drop by ramping or drawing you cards, while Set actually synergizes pretty well with the Blind Monk since you have easy access to buffs. On the very top end, some lists are playing Deadbloom Predator, but that card is way too expensive for me at this point. The deck list I decided on for this week is 2 Clockwerk Keeper, 3 Stalwart Poro, 3 Pit Rookie, 3 First Mate, 3 Sunlit Guardian, 3 Wizened Elder, 2 Wildclaw Shaman, 2 Lee Sin Centered, and 3 Udyr Wildman. For spells, I have 2 Charm, 3 Defy, 3 En Garde, 2 Block, 3 Discipline, 1 Wind Wall, 1 Primal Strength, and 1 Dragon's Rage. I'm still running 6 Calm and 6 Body Runes, and my battlefields are Monastery of Harana, Grove of the Godwillow, and the Dreaming Tree. I'm back from my second Nexus Night, and I ended up going 3-0. My first round was against Darius. Darius is a legend that has the ability to exhaust to add 1 energy, but it cannot be used unless you already played a card this turn. This means Darius players can play out their hand very quickly, as they want to play at least 2 cards per turn. The champion my opponent was running was Darius Trifarian. He's a 5 might unit for 5 energy and a Fury rune with the ability to gain 2 might and ready himself when the second card in a turn is played. Game 1 was close, but I managed to take it with the help of Primal Strength. It let me hold a battlefield to get my final point. In Game 2, my opponent bricked and drew all 3 of his baited hooks and no units. My second round was against Yasuo. Yasuo is a legend that says you can exhaust and pay 2 energy to move a unit either to or from the base. This gives Yasuo the ability to contest battlefields from nowhere. It also allows him to conquer and immediately retreat to safety. The champion my opponent was playing was Yasuo Remorseful. He's a 6 might unit for 6 energy and 2 calm runes who says, when I attack, deal damage equal to my might to an enemy unit here. Immediately after reading this, I knew that I didn't want him to kill an Udyr or Lee Sin for free. So after he hit 8 energy, I either retreated Udyr and Lee Sin, or I kept up a combat trick like block or discipline. Udyr was also amazing in this matchup, as my opponent had lots of small units for me to pick off, such as Wielder of Water. I was able to take both games by being wary of the 8 energy Yasuo combo and slowly outvaluing my opponent with Udyr. My final round was against Master Yi. Master Yi says that when a unit blocks alone, it gets +2 might. This means Master Yi usually wants to have one big thing on a battlefield and just hold it by using defensive spells. The champion being played was Master Yi Honed. He's a 6 might unit for 7 energy and a calm rune who enters ready and has ganking. In game 1, I was able to stop my opponent from holding both battlefields by using Dragon's Rage to kick his Master Yi Honed into a tasty Feyfolk. It was still pretty close, but I managed to win in the end. In game 2, my opponent put out Grove of the Godwillow. He managed to get onto the battlefield on his second turn, and I was never able to get him off since all of the extra cards meant he just kept getting more and more combat tricks. In game 3, I put out my Grove of the Godwillow, which I was able to conquer on my turn 2. From there, I just kept playing units to the Grove of the Godwillow and completely ignoring the other battlefield. What I learned from playing Lee Sin vs Master Yi is that going first is very, very good. Since Master Yi is so much better at defending than attacking, being able to hold one battlefield the whole game is a viable win condition. I added a bunch of new cards, so let's go over how they performed. The Clockwerk Keepers were actually pretty good even as late draws because they just become a body that replaces itself. It was much more flexible than I gave it credit for. Sunlit Guardians were way better than Wielder of Water because I could fortify a battlefield with them to add 4 total might, while Wielder of Water would only add 2 might in that situation. For the spells, Defy was just a good card. I always found a good opportunity to use it. En Garde, on the other hand, I might have been too positive about. It's definitely a good card, but there were multiple times where I had to decide if I hold up the En Garde or if I just buffed the unit instead. Oftentimes, I just buffed the unit thinking I could save the En Garde for a better time. The blocks were very good on defense, but they were useless against direct damage removal. Still, a pretty good card. I just need to remember that they have hidden. For my 1-of Windwall, I never actually played it, but there weren't a lot of things that Windwall could counter that Defy couldn't, so I never really wished that I had it. The one time I saw it, it was in my opening hand, so I decided to recycle it to the bottom. Primal Strength was a very good card, and although it can be hit by Defy, it definitely won me some games. I don't think I would put more copies in though. Dragon's Rage was really good. There's a lot of different applications, but getting a big 2-for-1 can be game-changing. I think I might want another copy. The only card that I'm unsure about keeping is Wildclaw Shaman. At best, it's a readied 4 might unit for 4 energy that's sometimes just a 3 might unit for 4 energy. When you're not getting value from its ability, it's a pretty bad card. I like the list so far, so I probably won't make many changes for next week. But for the next video, I'm going to build a sideboard. So if you want to see my first attempt ever at building a sideboard, tune in next week. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like or a comment. I hope you have a great day.